Hi, I'm Jenny Slate, and believe it or not, someone is allowing us to have a podcast.
I'm Gabe Weidman.
I'm Max Silvestri, and we've been friends for 20 years, and we like to reach out to kind of get advice on how to live our lives.
It's called I Need You Guys.
Should I give my baby fresh vegetables?
Can I drink the water at the hospital?
My landlord plays the trombone, and I can't ask him to stop.
You should make sure that you subscribe so that you never miss an episode.
I need you, girl.
Come to DSW for the shoes, stay for the fun. Because, let's be honest, if shoe shopping isn't fun, are you even doing it right? So go ahead, try something new. Try something different. Good different. Try something that feels like you. You know, the real you. And then definitely brag about it later. Because at DSW, you've got unlimited freedom to play. Find the shoes that get you at prices that get your budget at DSW stores or at DSW.com. Let us surprise you.
Meeting new people just got way more fun because now you don't have to do it alone. With Tinder's new Double Date feature, you and your bestie can match together. Tap the Double Date icon to see profiles built for two. When two pairs match, the group chat kicks off. Scope the profiles, send memes, keep the chat fun. Hype each other up, flirt a little, maybe plan a hang. It's always better when you're in it together. Try the new Tinder Double Date. Explore all the possibilities. Tinder, it starts with a swipe. Download Tinder today.
You can support this podcast at patreon.com/partnersincrimemedia.
I'm Rebecca Lavoie, and this is Crime Writers On. Crime Writers On is the original true crime review podcast that digs into true crime, pop culture, other podcasts. And on this episode, a fertility clinic closed its doors without warning. What became of the embryos stored inside? We'll talk about the podcast, What Happened in Nashville. Joining me to get that done and more is true crime author, TV journalist, and host of These Are Their Stories podcast, my husband and the love of my life, Kevin Flynn. Hello, Kevin.
Hello, Rebecca.
Also with us, it's private investigator, certified pet detective, resident cat lady, and author of The Final Curtain, Laura Bricker. Hi, Laura.
Hey, Rebecca.
And finally, our captain of all things cynical, author of the City Trilogy, host of Rip Current, More Like Ancient Phalians, Strange Arrivals, and our Patreon Deep Dive Book Club podcast, Toby Ball. Hola, Nano.
Hey, Rebecca.
So, Kevin, This is Monday's program.
It is.
What's coming up on Thursday's show?
Yeah, on Thursday we're going to talk about the documentary film from Netflix. It's called Kidnapped, Elizabeth Smart.
So, Kevin, I want to thank you about something.
What's that?
You had to be my nurse all week. Do you see this, guys? I cut off a tip of my pinky last Saturday cutting a bagel.
Almost.
It got flappy like Pac-Man.
Yeah.
And Kevin not only drove me to the urgent care and signed me in on their computer thing because I couldn't use my hand.
Oh, God.
But he then, after I was checked in, drove over to Einstein and got me another bagel so I could eat it when my stitches were done.
Oh,
man.
God.
That was the important thing. She still wanted the bagel.
I did. I had in my head that I was going to eat the bagel.
Said the bagel ate you.
Yes, it
And the
did.
bagel was covered in blood.
This was like, it was like one of those situations, like one of those Saturday Night Live skits where they cut off somebody's arm and it's like, tss, tss, tss. It was crazy. It was really crazy. Was it not?
It was.
And then Monday I had a checkup and I got 2 vaccinations, the pneumococcal vaccine and the flu vaccine. And just last night, which as we tape this was Wednesday, I was like, Kevin, my arm still really hurts. Does this look normal? And I pulled up my sleeve and I had like a giant softball-sized red welt with like bruising all in it. And I sent it to my doctor friend and she was like, that does not look normal. So Kevin did the thing like they do on the pit and drew around it with a magic marker.
Oh.
So we
see
could
if it
measure.
got bigger or whatever.
Wow.
It hasn't spread, so it's fine.
Yeah.
Heaven.
So thank you.
Look at this.
I think you could probably work at the Nashville fertility clinic, Kevin.
Draw a big circle around your ovary. Is that your ovary? Do you think that's your ovary?
Is that your embryo?
Yeah.
Does it matter?
Does it matter? Somebody's embryo.
It might be, and that's
Did the
good
tank
enough
warm
for
up?
us.
We don't know. Okay. We don't want to make light of others' pain, but for real, that was pretty insane. Should we go ahead and talk about it?
Yeah, let's do it.
All right, let's do it. Leading off.
It doesn't matter how much I fight. It doesn't matter how sad I get. It doesn't matter how much I cry over all of this. It doesn't matter how much justice we get. None of it's going to get me pregnant.
Cindy McDowell was preparing for the last steps in her fertility journey. But when she went to Nashville Center for Reproductive Health for a final checkup, she learned the clinic was abruptly closing. And what would happen to her frozen embryos was unclear.
His first answer was, "So who's watching the tanks?" And so that part hadn't even crossed my mind. And so then that hits me that if his office staff walks out, who is watching the tanks?
Hundreds of families who'd paid thousands of dollars were left in the lurch, unable to recover their money or their embryos. As the would-be mothers compared notes, they said they missed many red flags that something wasn't right at this fertility clinic.
This is a story about what happens when a clinic entrusted with people's most fragile hopes simply collapses, leaving them with questions, debt, and heartbreak.
From School of Humans and iHeartPodcasts comes What Happened in Nashville. Host Melissa Jeltsen brings the heart-wrenching stories of those whose dreams of conceiving were dashed. She also explores the background of the clinic's owner-operator, attempts to hold him accountable, and looks into the lingering deficiencies in regulating this kind of medicine. Spoiler alert, we're going to be talking about plot points from What Happened in Nashville. So, if you want to remain spoiler-free, go to the estimated time code in our show notes for our thumbs up or thumbs down reviews. Now, I want to get one thing out of the way real quick. Cover art. Kevin Flynn, what did you think of it?
It's kind of surprising. It was a little on the nose.
All right. You want to describe it for those who haven't seen it?
Okay. It's basically, it's the legs of a woman in the stirrups.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's sort of like...
looking through them?
Coming down, not going back up. But I was like, okay, this was a little, I don't know. It's obviously editorially what this is about. And then again, the name is also kind of like, not terribly descriptive. What happened in Nashville could mean a lot of different things. But I was like, okay, it's been a while since we talked about cover art as anything but promotional. But I was like,
I think the last time was that one with the Woods Ghost one. The pregnant lady and the ghost.
The unborn.
Yeah. But didn't the cover art also have little tiles with embryos in them, like little zygotes?
Yeah. I mean, that was fine.
Yeah.
A little wallpaper. That's sort of indicative of what this was about. But I was kind of like, oh, all right.
I just wanted to throw it out there because Kevin asked me, like, what do you think of the cover art? I'm like, I don't know. I didn't look at it. And I looked at it and I was like, oh. And not because I'm not shocked by seeing a woman's leg in stirrups. It just surprised me that would be the image. And not a bad way, just a surprising way.
Isn't it effective then?
Totally.
Like if you're cruising through stuff and you're like, oh shit, what's this?
Yes.
I think that's what it's supposed to do.
Mm-hmm. I think cover art is such a science now. Because of the size of the app art, because of like how it represents next to other things. Like we just released a show at NHPR called Safe to Drink. And you'd be surprising how many boring ways you can make a glass of water look for cover art. So, we came up with this thing that's kind of like boom, and it super works. But anyway, so Laura, we start here with one patient who was essentially like, I don't want to call her the canary in the coal mine. She was sort of like... Yeah, she sort of felt like a patient zero for this whole thing unraveling. Do you want to talk about that decision to start with her story?
Yeah, I think when we hear what comes down the road later at this fertility clinic and people being in this awful state of limbo, we lean on the story of this one patient. She's been on this journey for a while. She has a big moment in her fertility journey coming up where she's waiting like 2 weeks out. Her mom comes with her. She's talking about everything leading up to, if this happens, we're going to have like matching pajamas at the Christmas season. And she's going to tell everybody because they've been on this. And this one nurse with a conscience apparently takes her and her mom in the back room and like tips them off and is like, this place is shutting down. We're not getting paid. Get your embryos and get the heck out of Dodge while you still can. And she's like, holy shit, goes out. It's very suspenseful. As you're hearing about this medical courier that's going to pick up her embryos, and are they going to get them to the new facility in time? Then you hear about what a delay this is now going to cause in her actually going forward with trying to get pregnant. But she feels like it's the only option based on the information that she has. And then she does all this, and it seems like business as usual. Like there's things on the Facebook page. There's nothing going on. So like something else we recently listened to where women were not being listened to, she turns to TikTok and starts sharing her story. And that is how the word gets out. When you hear the totality of what happened at this place, the fact that there's this one woman who got tipped off and was able to get her embryos out was pretty amazing, but also just really heartbreaking when you later hear just the emotions behind what goes into going through infertility treatments and trying to get pregnant. I mean, I'm like, good for that one nurse. I wonder what happened to her later when it was found out that she was like the tipster. And I wonder why she didn't tip anyone else off. Why just this one woman?
Yeah, I thought it was interesting too. I thought it was a very well done, set of series of scenes because it's her story. There's a lot of propulsion to it. She's also the one, by the way, who goes to the TV news and they do a feature about it. But I also, this is a dumb small detail that added to it for me. I'm still thinking of the fact that she hadn't had lunch yet and she was super hungry when she was doing all this stuff. I like it when scenes are that descriptive and that sort of character building quickly. And I thought hers was a great story to start out with too, because it felt in many ways less sad than the other stories in the podcast, but had definitely action in the moment. So Toby, in the first episode, they're kind of trying to set up what this whole infertility clinic does, what's it all about. And that includes some mechanical, technical stuff. How do you think about how that was handled at the beginning of the podcast to sort of help a listener understand what's going on?
So I felt like the first episode or two, there were some kind of awkward moments where maybe they were trying to figure out a way of getting information across, but it wasn't set up. It just felt like it needed to be thought through a little bit more. One of the things is there's this montage of women talking about in vitro fertilization, and it's just like 7 or 8 women kind of pipe in, but it's not really set up. It kind of comes out of nowhere, and it was just a little jarring. There's another thing where this woman, Cindy, she's going to have her fallopian tubes looked at through a laparoscopic procedure. You're kind of used to having a couple of beats where they're like maybe describe what the procedure's like or talk about her anxieties over it or what the possible outcomes would be or whatever before they kind of release it to build like a little bit of suspense or some storytelling or whatever. And in this case, it's like she does it. And then the very next sentence is what the result was. It's just like bang, bang.
I remember walking out of that appointment and I sat in my car and I just bawled. I was only 25 at the time. I didn't expect anything like this to happen.
You know, at the beginning, there were some things that just kind of felt awkward to me in a way that I wouldn't have expected, you know, from something from, was it School of Humans?
Mm-hmm.
And I would have assumed it would have been a little smoother. But, you know, I think afterwards, like the later episodes, that didn't stick out to me.
Yeah. I felt like this podcast was in many ways iHeartified. And I just want to like the style of it. I mean, there's definitely like a packaging aesthetic that I'm kind of could become accustomed to around iHeartPodcasts. And this podcast was so well reported and there's so much good. I mean, she interviewed a ton of people that ended up in the show. I could only imagine how many people didn't end up in the show. What did you think of our reporter, Melissa Jeltsen, Kevin?
I liked her. I enjoyed that she brought sort of like her own experience, you know, her own fertility journey. I don't think enough hosts kind of explain their connection to the subject matter. You know, this wasn't like she was a patient, but she could empathize with some of the different women in this, you know, and talk about sort of the family experience, you know, even when it goes well, sort of how emotionally fraught it can be and expensive. And, you know, so I think that, you know, makes her be able to connect to the subject matter in a different way, and that's beneficial to the listener.
You agree, Laura?
Yeah, absolutely. I think a lot of times we have people who feel like a reach to be connected to a story. Like, well, I was just so interested in this story because I was from this town. And you're like, yeah, you're not. You thought this was going to be like a story that you're going to make some money on. Okay. This is very genuine. And I think as it goes on, I'm sure that was sort of a way for her to connect with her interview subjects. They had this common shared experience. But I think she was able to really, I think, using herself as a jumping off point, get into that long emotional toll that infertility treatment and what that is like for somebody going through it. You know, there's a woman in my church every single week who prays. She's going through treatments. Every week you go to church and you're like, oh my goodness, like this family, what they're going through. And I think having somebody like that who has a genuine connection to this story not only makes us buy into what she's telling us, but I think also gives her a lot of credibility when she's going out to start sourcing this and speak to people that she wants to interview.
One of the things I found interesting about this podcast, and I think this was handled very well, were the variety of situations that were explored with different people and how they found themselves in a position to go to this fertility clinic, right? So you had one gay couple who decided to do the thing where like one of them would do the egg and the other one would carry the baby. You had, the woman at the beginning of the story who is sort of setting it up very traditional. I believe she had stepkids and she and her husband wanted to have a child that was from the two of them. And there was she had endometriosis and there were issues there. We had a woman more deeply into the podcast who she really feels pressure because she's like in her, turning 40 or in her early 40s. And she and her husband always knew they wanted kids, but it just wasn't happening. And it was just like this very traditional, but in the same way, like very like mutual situation with a real deadline. And then you have, the couple who's mixed race, who's looking to have a baby that sort of represents both. It was just a nice variety of people. One of the things that I found myself thinking about, Toby, especially when we hear that one of the patients had been conservative, and then this whole thing makes her realize that, women's health in her state is just something people don't really care about. Surprise, surprise. And so suddenly she's more moderate. I think that there's another podcast to be made, not necessarily this one, about the fraught nature of the crossover of religious belief and IVF and fertility treatments. And there is sort of like a little hint at that in this show when it comes to, how you regulate the industry. Can you talk about that a little bit?
Sure. Well, it comes at the end, I guess, when they're sort of giving a lay of the land where things stand now. And they talk about Alabama, I think, in particular, which did they pass a law that said that frozen embryos are people? I think it was something along those lines. And that suddenly, like all these fertility clinics just stopped doing stuff because they didn't know where they stood legally with just their procedures. If something didn't go right, like would they suddenly be on the hook for murder or, manslaughter or whatever? One of the things that comes up here, and I'm sure we'll talk about the details later, is the need for like firmer regulation of these fertility clinics and laws that sort of put into place like sort of standards for practice. And they make the point, which I think is absolutely right, is that once you open that up in some states in particular, you're going to run into this very conservative religious feeling that life begins at the point of conception. I mean, this is the same thing with stem cells. It's like you do stem cell research. It's this very, I don't, conservative or fundamentalist, I don't quite know how to characterize it, but you're suddenly opening the door for the whole fertility, enterprise to be shut down or all but shut down because the regulations become so overbearing because of this idea that the components of fertility treatments are in and of themselves, things that you can be prosecuted for or get into other kinds of legal trouble for if they are destroyed or fail to come to term or what have you. So it is kind of this very strange situation where, you want to place better guidelines on the industry, but understanding that once you open up that conversation, and particularly in specific states, it's not going to end up where you want it to, which is, stronger guidelines on high quality fertility clinics, right? It's going to go in a completely different direction.
It actually, before the last presidential election, did come up briefly. And then a bunch of conservatives came out and said, no, we want IVF because we want more children. It was like a very interesting, like we don't want people injected with hormones in this situation, but in this situation, we want people injected with lots of hormones. There's like a lot of weird stuff where it's like the cross-issue policy stuff doesn't make sense. I mean, theoretically, I can't understand why, if an embryo is considered a human being, why it's okay to put them in a freezer. I mean, I'm not saying that I believe that. I'm just saying
it's because you're a woman and that's why you don't understand things.
Oh, that's true. Right. That's true. That's probably why, because I'm basic.
Because you're basic.
I'm very
logically,
simple.
not emotionally, Rebecca.
Yeah, I'm just trying to meet out the arguments. I'm not trying to make an argument. It's just really hard to meet out good faith arguments when things are so contradictory. Right, Kevin?
Right. But, you can make a good faith argument that joining us at Patreon is a benefit.
Business section.
Yeah. How's that for a transition?
We're pretty good.
Yeah, you can definitely keep the show going by sponsoring us at Patreon. You'll get all sorts of exclusive content, including the Crime Writers on After Show. You know what we're talking about this time?
No.
Well, we're going to kind of turn the microphone over to Laura because she had a life lesson when she went skiing that she wanted to share with everybody. So I'm just going to leave it there.
Hold it for the after show.
Yeah, all right. Don't let anyone know. But I mean, that's not all
she
the
thought
Laura.
she was going to change them, but they actually changed her. Was it one of those?
I don't think so, actually.
We'll find out.
Actually, I'm kind of hoping they didn't change Laura, or maybe they did. I don't know. We'll just leave it there.
I'm ready for the Olympics now. You can all see the video. I'm zooming. I'm skiing entirely differently thanks to this thing that happened.
If you can't get enough Laura Bricker, you also can get her exclusive podcast on Patreon, Leave It to Bricker, in which she solves mysteries, or at least mysteries to her, in her quaint AF town of Exeter, New Hampshire. Other podcasts include Married with Podcast, Toby Ball's Deep Dive Book Club podcast, and Rebecca's Something's Off with Mel Barrett. If you're a deep diver, the thing you want to do is be reading Toby's next book, The Lumumba Plot. And Toby, who are going to be your guest for that discussion?
Alex Segura, who's been on a bunch, and our trusty producer, Livy Burdett.
Handsome, too.
Yeah, it's going to be a great panel. Good discussion. Remember, you can join Patreon for free. Just check it out. You also can listen to previews of clips. I think you can get, at least the first 3 minutes of every episode. You can just listen in, see if you like it. And if you're almost ready to make the commitment, you can get a trial subscription. Get Patreon free for 7 days, and you can listen to everything that you want.
1,000 episodes
We've got
in
almost
7 days.
1,000 episodes if you want to listen to them all.
Do it.
God bless you.
I challenge you.
God bless you. It's like the LL Bean guarantee. If you didn't enjoy it, you can just return it at no cost to you.
They don't do that anymore.
They don't do that anymore?
No,
Do
lifetime
people?
guarantee is over. People abused it. It's a whole This American Life story about it.
People knew about it. They decided to abuse it. But you can join us. It's patreon.com/partners in crime media.
Kevin, does thus end our business section?
Thus ends the business section.
I'm going to go ahead and fade that music out right now.
He's Kenny Mayne, the funny guy from ESPN.
Formerly. He's Cooper Manning, the more intelligent and handsome of the Manning brothers.
And he's Brian Baumgartner. But to me, he'll always be Kevin from The Office.
Yeah, you and everybody else. Together, we're the hosts of the new comedy golf podcast, We Need a Fourth.
From Smartless Media and SiriusXM.
It's like a cold beer after a round. You hear the strangest and most bizarre golf stories from our friends, athletes, celebrities, and comedians.
It's all about how much we love golf and how much we hate golf. New episodes are out every week. Listen now and subscribe wherever you get your podcast. Could just be anywhere, just on a couch. Doesn't matter.
Come to DSW for the shoes, stay for the fun. Because, let's be honest, if shoe shopping isn't fun, are you even doing it right? So go ahead, try something new. Try something different. Good different. Try something that feels like you. You know, the real you. And then definitely brag about it later. Because at DSW, you've got unlimited freedom to play. Find the shoes that get you at prices that get your budget at DSW stores or at DSW.com. Let us surprise you.
A BetterHelp ad. February is full of flowers and lots of relationship talk. But whether you're single, married, or dating, just remember, you're right on time. Sometimes it feels like everyone has it all together in their love lives. But the truth is, we're all still figuring it out. Therapy can help. Get some outside perspective from a professional that can lead to new understanding and a lot less pressure on yourself. And remember, you're right on time. Visit BetterHelp.com for 10% off.
So, Kevin,
Yeah.
businesses go out of business all the time, right?
They do.
And from what we hear here, and it's hard to parse out what's true, what's not true, because we hear it all from the guy who owned it himself through his lawyers, right?
Yeah.
That his wife was running the business very well, and then she developed dementia, left the business, and it all fell apart. He accuses employees of misusing funds, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But it sounds also from the way the office was run and stuff after she left that she was really the brains behind the operation and she was never replaced, right? So this happens all the time.
Kind of like our business.
That happens all the time, right?
Yeah.
Business fails because some missing link is there or because the market changes or whatever. Why shouldn't a fertility clinic be treated like any other business? Rhetorical question, by the way.
I mean, in part because it's not like any other business.
Right.
But, I don't know what the overhead for running a clinic like that is. I mean, I don't know. Is all their cost in liquid nitrogen or whatever? Yeah, businesses do fail, including, medical practices that part is not a crime. But this is a different kind of business because their inventory is very important genetic material. And so, like, there ought to be succession plans for, like, this kind of business. So it's not inconceivable. Inconceivable? You see what I did there? I walked right into that.
I got it.
It's not inconceivable that a fertility clinic would go out of business, but, like, there ought to be, like, contingency plans for what to do, not with just the medical records, but with all the genetic material. And we didn't have that here. And that's part of the regulatory issue that they bring us, specifically at the end. But, it should be, oh, well, this is horrible that you're going out of business, especially when I'm supposed to have my eggs implanted in 2 weeks after taking all these very powerful drugs. But you shouldn't be wondering about, well, what the fuck is going to happen to all my fertilized eggs?
Right.
I shouldn't have to run to the restaurant down the street and make a phone call. And it's like, by the way, like, remember those tanks? It's like 300 degrees below Fahrenheit. So it isn't like you can just grab a basket.
Put them in a lunch, insulated lunch bag.
I'll bring them someplace else. Yeah.
I got my eggs.
No, it'll freeze your finger off and you'll crack. But, that's part of the issue that they bring up because, do you imagine, like, every dentist's office, every, pediatric clinic, like, they're just going to go on forever and ever, especially when it's a...
No, they usually sell them to somebody else.
You sell them to somebody else,
right.
or whatever. There are plans, in some of these cases, but there wasn't one here, and that was part of the problem of what happened in Nashville.
My hippie yoga teacher dentist sold his practice to some super competent people, and I like it way better now. What were you going to say, Toby?
They need to have some kind of plan because it's just like you're not going to shred people's medical files because you're closing
Didn't
your
you think,
office
Toby, that the doctor was in denial about the business closing? Like, I don't think he thought it was going to shut down.
No. Well, my sense of this whole story is that he just increasingly gets in over his head once his wife stops running the operation. Like it seems to me like he was just like a doctor who was doing his thing. And then suddenly he's supposed to I think he was a little sketchy to begin with, like the stuff about selling couples like subprime eggs, that's been turned down.
That expression was so funny.
That's horrible.
Not grade A.
Yeah. And it's kind of sketchy, but I think in some ways it's like once his wife leaves and there's nobody really running the show anymore, like he's trying to keep the balls up in the air and he just can't do it. And instead of doing the responsible thing and either getting somebody to get everybody's shit in gear or, closing down and just being like, I can't provide care. He just, he's trying to patch it all together. And the people who suffer are his patients. And so he makes a lot of fucking terrible decisions, all of which come down on these families who are spending a lot of money and a lot of emotional capital in this whole affair to be treated as kind of afterthoughts as this guy kind of tries to keep the ship going. So anyway, I think that's kind of sort of the way, that's like one angle on the story. And it's something that we've seen in other podcasts too, in like slightly different situations. But again, it's just like, instead of sort of admitting or facing up to the situation, we try to paper things over and it just gets worse and worse and worse.
Yeah. So Laura, Toby described this doctor as potentially sketchy. I agree. One of the ways we saw that play out was that he hired this guy, Dr. Dyer, who had gone to basically a non-accredited medical school. It's essentially what it sounds like. Yeah. And then was promised, and he had talked to the podcast, so I give him credit for that. He was promised that Vasquez, the owner of this clinic, would help him get his medical license here in the United States if he worked for him, essentially doing like cheap labor for 4 years. That being said, a lot of the patients believed they were working with a licensed physician. So what do you think about that aspect of how this business was run?
Yeah, I that was one of the things as you're listening to it. And I agree with Toby. Like, I don't think Dr. Vasquez went into this with like malintent. I think he was just disorganized. He's probably a smart guy, but can't run a business and had other stuff going on. And he didn't make good decisions. So it's like the snowball of bad decisions. including getting Dr. Dyer in here, who he was like trying to be helpful. He thought he was helping patients, but patients are getting these like portal messages where he's identifying himself as Dr. Dyer. And the nurses and the assistants are like, oh, we're going to go ask Dr. Dyer and we'll get back to you with his answer.
Then news breaks that Ferrer Dyer isn't a licensed doctor. Kristen and her wife are stunned.
He had a white coat on, brought us into his office.
When that part is first coming out, I'm like, did nobody like go on the website and Google the person they were going to be seeing before they went in? Because that's what I do anytime I go somewhere that I'm meeting someone new. And maybe it's just my personality, but like in this day and age, like, so when they did that, they're like, hey, this guy went to like University of Phoenix for medicine in England. Like, you know, or like those things you see on TV, like you can get your license in 10 weeks. Like, okay.
SNHU in England.
Yeah.
The $10,000 medical degree.
Yeah. You know, but I think what's hard is that he was providing, you know, medical services. It's pretty clear from the interviews with the patients that he was providing medical services. Whether or not any of that led to people not getting pregnant, whatever, I think what was hard is that the authorities, the Department of Health, you know, basically says, we don't have evidence to say he practiced medicine without a license. And like they like are like blah, blah, blah rules. But you have evidence here that he was practicing. So I get it, but that's going to be extremely frustrating. And then the DA, the prosecutor, doesn't do anything criminal, basically in regard to anything that happened. And I think where these patients are feeling like nobody's being held accountable for this, they just want somebody to be held accountable for what's happening to their embryos, to their hopes of having a child after they've put all this money into it, to have like one other person involved in this who I don't think was like the criminal mastermind here, but also there were things that weren't done correctly. And to have like one more thing where somebody isn't able to be held accountable by the rules that are in place, when there's all these other things in this whole story where the rules in place do not allow for accountability, has got to be just one more sort of nail. I don't want to say in the coffin, that's not, but like just one more thing where these families and these women are like, what the fuck? Like, is anybody going to stand up for me here? You know?
Yeah, I'm kind of two minds on Dr. Dyer, Laura. I mean, if he went to medical school and the regulations say that like he can practice or, do whatever under Dr. Vasquez's license while being a fellow, whatever that system kind of is, if it's thought out and they're following it, then it's not really his fault whether it's sketchy or not. And I don't know if this is the case, but if under the system he's not supposed to be referred to as a doctor.
Right.
He went to medical school. I believe you can refer to somebody as a doctor if they went to medical school.
Right. But there seemed to be a little something there. It certainly, but like what did it say? Like his lab coat said fellow.
Yeah.
Yes.
Right. And as opposed to MD or whatever. I mean, I don't, there are other letters that go after people's names now that's, beyond MD. But like, he shouldn't have let the patients and the staff sort of refer to him or let them believe that, he was a different kind of accreditation than he did. I mean, like when I use the patient portal and I'm like, I don't know, I'm not feeling great. And I get, an answer back. Do I really know that it was Dr. So-and-so that wrote this back? When the nurse said, well, Dr. So-and-so said this, or whoever is answering the email, I mean, I don't 100% know. I mean, it just, you do have a lot of faith in that. But it certainly ends up being a really bad look when the clinics kind of collapses on itself and you've got a staff member that everybody's been like referring to, and I don't know, what was he couldn't prescribe medicine, or
Vasquez was prescribing all the medicine.
Yeah, it definitely seems like a don't ask, don't tell. Don't tell them that you're in this little weird limbo area, especially if you're not a dentist, you're doing reproductive medicine, right? And it's very intimate for these women, and so they can't have 95% faith in you.
Yeah.
Right? They've got to have 100% faith in you.
I kept thinking about how much more accountability there might have been if this was penis stuff and not uterus stuff going on at this clinic. I just can't help but think that. Like this is again a story where because it's women's health, people are like, well, you weren't getting pregnant anyway. So, and then we hear later in the podcast that this one couple kind of finds out that like they went to a different fertility clinic, and they were like, no, you could have done this. And so now they're left to wonder how much of this clinic's practices is the reason why they weren't able to do it. Toby, let's talk about a couple of specifics of those practices. We hear about a practitioner here who is doing an ultrasound and doesn't know what body parts are. And then what were those tanks labeled in the freezing room?
Yeah, I laugh, but it's not really all that funny. It's got two labels on it. One says backup, and the other one says mice embryos.
Oh,
so
seems legit.
Yeah, you just want to make sure you get the stuff from the right shelf, I guess.
That's what happens when you get your tanks from a Facebook Marketplace.
Yeah,
it's like buying something at the LLB outlet with someone else's initials on
Yeah,
it.
Exactly.
Like, I should have painted over that.
Let Hugh, who is without having bought one of those, cast the first stone. Yeah, the nurse who's doing the ultrasound is like, is that the uterus? Does that look like a uterus to you, to the patient?
Yeah.
The patient's like, I don't know.
Which
I get.
You tell me.
She's like, okay, I don't really know what I'm doing, and I don't really know how to do ultrasounds. I'm just a nurse, but they've got me back here. Then while the wand is inside of me, she goes, do you think that's your ovary? I'm sorry, you can't be talking to me. There's got to be somebody else in the room.
I find ultrasounds very difficult to figure out what the hell's going on. I actually had one recently on my Achilles tendon, and the nurse was showing me, so I'm like, it just looks like a bunch of, I can't tell what the hell I'm looking at.
It's static. I trust you.
Did she ask you if that was your ovary?
Yeah, it looks like you're 6 months pregnant, Mr. Ball. Yeah, so I'm not surprised that if you aren't trained, you couldn't figure it out. But ideally, at one of these clinics, you have somebody who's trained taking a look at your ultrasound rather than somebody like me.
Do you think, Laura, that sort of the lack of accountability and this stuff being able to go on kind of willy-nilly? I just want to address one thing you said. I think that a lot of people trusted this place because their other physicians referred them there. There's that component. Yeah. But this is a part of healthcare where a lot of people are not using insurance. They're paying out of their own pockets.
Yeah.
Do you think that's one of the reasons why a place like this can stray so far afield of what seems normal because of what?
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. This is one of the things, as I was listening to this, I was thinking about like going through infertility treatments is a little bit of a luxury because it's not covered by insurance. And I say luxury because you have to put your own money up. Like you hear the one woman who's like, well, we took my husband's like Christmas bonus every year. And I'm like, well, not everybody has a Christmas bonus to use. So this isn't covered by insurance. It's extremely expensive. And the people that are going into this are, I think, I kind of say they're like kind of vulnerable because they are so desperate and so much wanting to get pregnant. So, you're operating with basically a private pay system because I am not aware of any insurance. I have friends who have gone through this.
In Massachusetts, there's this health insurance that it's like part of the law.
For the most part, though, it's, I think, very, very rare that this is covered by insurance. And I think when something is covered by insurance and the insurance companies stand to lose, there's going to be more oversight. There's going to be more eyes on something. In this, it's kind of operating outside the bounds of that structure in a way that I feel like I'm sure there are legitimate fertility treatment clinics and IVF doctors, but there's also probably people that are like taking advantage of people that are so wanting this in their life that they're willing to go on eBay and buy like some sort of, witchcraft thing from Tasmania that's going to put a fertility spell on them. And like people really, when they're in that situation, will do anything. I got pregnant like instantly, like boom, and I have my son. I have had friends who have gone through years of having to do this and still not gotten pregnant. So I think operating outside the bounds of a structure where there's some sort of oversight to keep tabs and maybe like make sure that people are, doing what they're like the doctors that are working there are qualified, making sure there's some sort of criteria. I feel like this just opens the door to sort of like a little bit of the Wild West in some cases, because it's one of those things that is like, I don't want to say optional, but it is. It's like a side sort of branch of medicine that isn't. And so that allows, I think, like the fox to get into the hen house.
It's almost treated, Kevin, like a retail store, right? Like you bought this thing at Best Buy and it doesn't work. What's your recourse?
Yeah, because in the end, that's kind of like on the regulatory side. That's what it is. I mean, there's a couple of parallels between like this podcast and things like Noble and The Mortician, where, there's kind of the Lucy and the Chocolate Factory kind of thing where the work's just piling up and like, okay, we're going to ignore this or ignore that. But like one of the parallels with Noble is like, well, what is the recourse? Because there's a limitation on laws, and I think maybe you don't want a bunch of laws about
women's bodies.
Yeah, about women's bodies or embryos, and like, because it certainly ends up the Venn diagram like over abortion rights like happens. And, so like in the end, there's only the consumer protection laws, right? And that's, it's an indirect way to get justice, but it makes sense because, you're talking about, if this were a penis clinic, it'd be different. Like if this were a penis clinic, it wouldn't cost $10,000 or whatever, right? And so that's an awful lot of money to just walk away from, right? Again, if it's one thing, if your dentist closed and you don't get your records or whatever, that's fine. You can get another dentist because your insurance covers that. But the tens of thousands of dollars, and that is just on top of all the other stuff that you have paid for emotionally, psychologically, sexually, all that stuff. Okay, so there are consumer protection laws. They don't have the same kind of bite, and you'll never be made whole. But, that's just sort of, that's what we have, and at least there's some way to hold a doctor like that accountable.
Well, unfortunately, consumer protection laws are being gutted as well, so there might not be those in the future.
Hey everybody, Ted Danson here to tell you about my podcast with my longtime friend and sometimes co-host Woody Harrelson. It's called Where Everybody Knows Your Name, and we're back for another season. I'm so excited to be joined this season by friends like John Mulaney, David Spade, Sarah Silverman, Ed Helms, and many more. You don't want to miss it. Listen to Where Everybody Knows Your Name with me, Ted Danson, and Woody Harrelson sometimes, wherever you get your podcasts.
Come to DSW for the shoes, stay for the fun. Because, let's be honest, if shoe shopping isn't fun, are you even doing it right? So go ahead, try something new. Try something different. Good different. Try something that feels like you. The real you. And then definitely brag about it later. Because at DSW, you've got unlimited freedom to play. Find the shoes that get you at prices that get your budget at DSW stores or at DSW.com. Let us surprise you.
A BetterHelp ad. February is full of flowers and lots of relationship talk. But whether you're single, married, or dating, just remember, you're right on time. Sometimes it feels like everyone has it all together in their love lives. But the truth is, we're all still figuring it out. Therapy can help. Get some outside perspective from a professional that can lead to new understanding and a lot less pressure on yourself. And remember, you're right on time. Visit BetterHelp.com for 10% off.
All right, let's do what we do. Let's let our listeners know. Should they check out What Happened in Nashville? It's a new podcast from School of Humans and iHeartPodcasts. Laura Bricker, thumbs up or thumbs down for What Happened in Nashville?
So I'm going to go thumbs up on this. I ended up liking this more than I thought I was going into it. I think it was very well reported, very well sourced. The host, Melissa, had a personal connection to the issue in this story that made her relatable and genuine in her interactions with her interview subjects. It was maddening. I think, it really highlighted a lack of oversight and accountability in the fertility industry and, showed where that really affects people who are at the heart of this. And I think this did a good job getting at how people are affected. And this crazy situation in Nashville, which we didn't really know what happened in Nashville. I agree with Kevin, with the title. I'm like, I don't know what happened in Nashville. I mean, I went to Nashville once and some things happened, but this was different. This is what happened.
We had fun in Nashville, Laura.
We had fun in Nashville.
We didn't do the mechanical bull, but we did watch people do it, yeah.
So, I think this was, 6 episodes. This gave a good overview of what happened at this fertility clinic that abruptly closed. I don't think that's a spoiler. Through the eyes of the patients, through the regulatory, and prosecutorial influences in this in terms of what happened and didn't happen. So it's frustrating. I think I would like to know, what's going to happen on a bigger scale across the country, because it felt like my takeaway at the end was that there's really not a lot of eyes watching in this particular branch of medicine. And this is a classic example of what can go wrong in that situation. So I think it was interesting, well done, hard to listen to at points, but overall, thumbs up.
Toby Ball, thumbs up or thumbs down for what happened in Nashville?
Yeah, I mean, it feels like at this point, like these podcasts sort of exposing issues in women's healthcare is like its own little subgenre, I guess. And I think that's a good thing. I think these podcasts have tended to be good and thoughtful, and I think are shining a light on things in the way, 10 years ago, stuff with the justice system started being brought to the fore a little bit through podcasting. So I think that's good. As far as this one in particular, yeah, I mean, it's good. It's, a lot of good interviews. I think it's a pretty, I don't know, you just kind of get a sense of, at least for me, what a fertility clinic in general just sort of is dealing with, like the different kinds of things that has to deal with, the different people who come, what the different sort of psychological approaches are from the people who are coming. And then you get what goes wrong in this one clinic. And again, it's not like a single thing, right? It's a complete sort of within this clinic systemic breakdown where they're not planning for, well, I guess I don't want to go into I don't want to give anything away, but you see that it's a whole, it's everything. It's not like a little thing. It's whatever is causing it is causing everything to go awry. So yeah, I thought it was really good. So I'm a strong thumbs up.
Kevin Flynn.
Yeah, I'm a thumbs up, a mild thumbs up. I think this is very good. There's some good reporting in it. They hit all the beats. The only thing sort of like prevents them from being exceptional is that the story itself plays out kind of conventionally, which is not the fault of the host or anybody like that. It's just sort of like what happens in real life. You tell me, this is a story about, a fertility clinic that abruptly opens its doors. I could say, oh, well, you're probably going to hear this, you're going to hear this, you're going to hear this. And we heard all those things. But that doesn't, really take away from the way those stories were told. There are some parallels in this story to things like the retrievals, to Noble, to Mortician, different stories like this. You're right, Toby's right. Maybe this is becoming a subgenre, but these are still stories that are very important to tell. And this is one that was done very well. So I'd have to go mild thumbs up.
I'm thumbs up too. I would love to hear a version of this that was not iHeartified. I really would, because there's like some pacing stuff that just feels very perky. There's some music treatment. There's just some production that feels very much like the podcast was made to fit into an iHeart-shaped box. And I would love to hear what the show would sound like if it could breathe a little bit more and not be confined by that box. That being said, I thought the reporting in this podcast was great. I thought Melissa talked to so many people and the right people. Like Kevin, I didn't love the name of the show. I kept trying to think of like, what would I have called it? Would it be called The Clinic? Would it be called like Frozen Dreams? Something, I don't know.
Egg Dawn.
I don't know. That's terrible. I don't know.
Different yolks.
Stop it. I don't know what I would have called it, but I do think too that the sort of blandness of the title. I mean, I think the only reason we listened to it is because we heard about it through other means, right? It's not something that would pop out because of the title. And that's part of like the iHeartification of it. So I think this reporter is great. I would love to hear Melissa Jeltsen report other stories. I think that she's got like a Laura Bealish quality. She reminds me a little bit of the host of the Retrievals that we've now heard in 2 seasons. She just has a very strong writing sensibility for herself and personalizes the material enough without making it weird, if that makes sense. So, and I really feel like there was a lot of characters in the voices that we heard. We didn't just hear names and a voice. We heard names and a little bit of who they are and why they were so heavily affected in what was happening in their lives beforehand. And that's just good reporting. That's warmth. That's good reporting. And I thought that was present here. So I'm giving this a thumbs up. I liked it very much. Now it's time for my favorite part of the podcast, a little something I like to call the Crime of the Week. A North Carolina man is in trouble for breaking into a Little Caesars pizza shop after hours. He didn't steal from the cash register, not directly anyway. Police say Jonathan Hackett started making pizzas and selling them and putting the proceeds in his pocket. Even though the restaurant was closed because of a citywide winter storm curfew, people kept showing up looking for some pies for takeout. Hackett is a former employee and knew how to bake that pizza. He fired up the oven, made the orders, and kept the cash. He might have gotten away with it if he didn't come back a second time. He was stopped by late-night workers who got into a fight with him. Police have not said exactly how much money he made, but he surely was rolling in and rolling out the dough. So, panel, I come to bury Little Caesars, not to praise them. Get it?
Yeah.
Why arrest?
I did Shakespeare in high school too.
Also, you wrote that joke.
Yeah, that's true.
Why arrest this guy who was just showing some initiative? What is the next side hustle he's going to start? What do you think, Laura Bricker?
I think he needs to add delivery to this, because if it's a storm, you don't want to go out and have to pick up your pizza. You want it brought to you.
Yes. What about you, Toby?
I don't know. No, I don't know. I think he's gonna be the one guy. You know how there's the Waffle Houses are closing is when shit's getting real. Like he's gonna be the guy who shows up to the Waffle House when some hurricane's rolling through southern Alabama.
What do you think, Kevin?
Yeah, they're not using those school buses at night either. So I think that he's just gonna grab one of those and Uber it.
Oh.
With a lot of people.
I think he might take over one of those yogurt shops and call it you can't believe it's not their yogurt or something like that. I don't know. All right, Laura Bricker, if folks want to reach out to you on social media to say hello, how can they find you there?
You can find me at Laura Bricker on Blue Sky and Instagram.
What about you, Toby Ball?
I'm at Toby Ball NH on Blue Sky, and I'm at Toby Ball 603 on Instagram, where I'm actually posting stuff about cruising around Spain and then more like ancient aliens and that stuff.
So proud of you. Mm-hmm. Maybe you'll become a travel influencer. What about you, Kevin? How can you be found online?
I'm at Kevin P. Flynn.
Toby likes that idea a lot. He's nodding. He's smiling.
I said become.
If you want to follow me, Twitter, Instagram, Blue Sky, you can find me everywhere at Reb Lavoie. You can find the show everywhere at Crime Writers On, including TikTok. You can find us on YouTube, Blue Sky, etc. But I mostly encourage you to join our incredible Facebook group. Find us on Facebook. We'll let you into the group at the link there if you seem nice. Get episodes early and ad-free and everything else we make at patreon.com/partnersincrimemedia. Our theme song was composed and performed by Tyler Gibbons, and our editor is the handsome Livy Burdett. The EP of this show is Kevin. This show was recorded in the Caitlin Rogers Project Studio, also known as Studio C, the closet in our New Hampshire basement, where we also keep the temperature at a steady 320 degrees below zero. We really do. On behalf of all the crime writers, thanks so much for listening. We will catch you later. You can find me everywhere at Reb Lavoie. Excuse me. It's sympathetic coughing. This is getting absurd.
Partners in Crime Media.
He's Kenny Mayne, the funny guy from ESPN.
Formerly. He's Cooper Manning, the more intelligent and handsome of the Manning brothers.
And he's Brian Baumgartner. But to me, he'll always be Kevin from The Office.
Yeah, you and everybody else. Together, we're the hosts of the new comedy golf podcast, We Need a Fourth.
From Smartless Media and SiriusXM.
It's like a cold beer after a round. You hear the strangest and most bizarre golf stories from our friends, athletes, celebrities, and comedians.
It's all about how much we love golf and how much we hate golf. New episodes are out every week. Listen now and subscribe wherever you get your podcast. Could just be anywhere, just on a couch. Doesn't matter.